What if I told you the Falcons' future star, the man Atlanta believes will rewrite their history, is already being doubted by one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game? Yeah, Curt Warner just called out Michael Penix Jr., and Falcons fans, this one's personal. Because behind those headlines and inconsistency claims, there's a bigger story, one that could define the entire direction of Atlanta's season. Let's talk quarterbacks, and not just any quarterback. Let's talk about Michael Penix Jr., the man who's supposed to carry Atlanta into a new era. But lately, his name's been making noise for all the wrong reasons. NFL legend Curt Warner, a Super Bowl champion, a Hall of Famer, and one of the smartest minds to ever read a defense, recently went on the Rich Eisen show and shared his thoughts on 3 quarterbacks: C.J. Stroud, Patrick Mahomes, and yes, Michael Penix Jr., and what he said about Penix. It raised eyebrows across the league. Warner described the Falcons' offense as simple, claiming they run the same concepts over and over, and that when the first read isn't open, Penix struggles to adjust. In his words, the rookie still has a lot of evolving to do. That's a strong statement, especially from someone who's lived through the ups and downs of NFL stardom. But here's where things get interesting. Because while Warner's comments sound sharp, they might also be missing the full picture. Atlanta's offense has indeed looked predictable at times. Lots of choice routes, short reads, and repetitive motion. But is that really on Penix? Or is that on how the playbook is being used? When you look deeper, you realize Warner's critique actually proves his own point. The system is what's holding this kid back, not his talent. And that's what many fans, and even some inside the locker room, are starting to see. Because every time the play opens up, every time the protection holds just a second longer, Penix's arm talent flashes. You can see the vision, the poise, and the leadership that made him the 9th overall pick. The problem isn't his ceiling, it's that the offense keeps clipping his wings. So before we start calling him inconsistent, maybe we need to ask, how much freedom is he being given to grow? Atlanta drafted a gunslinger, not a game manager. And if they want to unlock the real Michael Penix Jr., that means trusting him to create, not just execute. Do you think Curt Warner's criticism of Michael Penix Jr. is fair? Or is the rookie being limited by the play calling? Drop your thoughts below and rate your confidence in Penix right now, 1 to 10. Let's see where Atlanta stands. Let's get one thing straight. Calling Michael Penix Jr. inconsistent might sound like a fair take from the outside, but the numbers tell a completely different story. Because here's the truth, Penix has an on-target throw percentage of 75.2% this season. That means 3 out of every 4 passes he throws hit his receiver right where they should. That's not luck, that's precision. That's timing. That's consistency. Now sure, not every throw turns into a completion. Some passes get dropped. Some receivers run the wrong route. Sometimes the defense makes a great play. But when you strip all that away and look purely at accuracy, Penix has been locked in. Compare this to last year, and the difference becomes clear. His on-target throws have jumped from 69 to 91. His drops are down, and he's facing more blitz pressure than before. Yet somehow, under all that chaos, he's still more accurate, more poised, and more in control. That doesn't sound like inconsistent to me. That sounds like a young quarterback growing in real time. But let's talk about the real issue hiding behind the stats. Atlanta barely runs play action, one of the easiest and most effective tools to help a quarterback find rhythm. He's had only 19 play action attempts all season. That's shockingly low. When you take away tools that help a QB succeed, of course the offense will look repetitive. So maybe, just maybe, the problem isn't Penix. Maybe it's the playbook. Now, don't get it twisted, he's not perfect. Penix still has things to fix. Sometimes he overthrows his receivers, and other times he double clutches when he should let it rip. He's learning, adjusting, and trying to find that balance between control and aggression. But let's be fair, that's what rookie seasons are for. You want growth, not perfection. And that brings us to a big question for Falcons fans. If the routes, the reads, and the rhythm all look predictable, how much of that falls on Zach Robinson's play calling instead of the quarterback? Because right now, it feels like we're watching a talented arm trapped inside a limited scheme, and that's not on Penix. Still, there's one more criticism that keeps popping up: the claim that Penix is a one-read quarterback. That's what we're diving into next. Because when you actually look at where his passes are going, that label might not hold up at all. If you had to fix one thing about Michael Penix Jr.'s game right now, what would it be? The overthrows, the hesitation, or the coaching around him? Drop your take in the comments, and rate your confidence in him so far this season, 1 through 10. Let's be real, calling Michael Penix Jr. a one-read quarterback is one of those lazy labels that people throw around when they don't actually study the tape. But when you dig into his passing chart, the truth tells a very different story. Look closely at his 2025 throw map. Imagine the field divided into deep left, deep middle, deep right, and those short and intermediate zones. You'll notice something right away. Yes, most of Penix's throws land between the line of scrimmage and the 10-yard line, but that's not a flaw. That's part of the system. This offense has been built on quick decisions and short reads, not because Penix can't throw deep, but because the Falcons' scheme keeps him operating within tight windows. But here's where things get interesting. Lately, you can actually see him spreading the ball around more. He's starting to attack deeper zones, move the pocket, and find secondary targets. That's growth. Now let's talk about something that almost no one mentions: Bijan Robinson's targets. In just 4 games, the Falcons' star running back has been targeted 23 times. That number isn't just a fun stat. It's proof that Penix isn't staring down one receiver. Because let's be honest, how many of those passes to Bijan were design plays? Probably not many. Most of them were checkdowns, which happen after a quarterback scans the field and doesn't find an open man. And that's the key: a checkdown isn't a sign of fear or limitation. It's a sign of maturity. It shows Penix is going through his progressions, reading defenses, and making the smart decision instead of forcing a risky throw. Now let's add one more piece to this puzzle: play action. When a team uses play action, they're setting up the ultimate one-read play, a design look for a specific receiver, often a tight end or a cross-field drag route. But guess what? The Falcons run play action on just 9.5% of their plays, one of the lowest rates in the entire NFL. That means Penix doesn't even have the luxury of those simple, schemed one-read throws that many other quarterbacks rely on. He's being asked to drop back, read the field, and make it work, and he's doing it under constant pressure. So the next time someone says he's a one-read guy, remind them of the facts: he's spreading the field. He's progressing through his reads. He's adjusting to a limited scheme and still producing at a high level. This isn't a quarterback who's afraid to pull the trigger. It's a quarterback learning to play chess in a league full of checkers. Falcons fans, do you think the coaching staff needs to give Penix more freedom to throw deep and use more play action? Drop your opinion in the comments, and rate how confident you are in Zach Robinson's play calling right now, 1 to 10. Here's the thing: nobody ever doubted Michael Penix Jr.'s ability to read defenses. He's sharp, calm. He processes the field better than most rookies in the league. But when it comes to the deep ball, even his biggest supporters have to admit, that's where the questions start to get louder. NFL legend Curt Warner recently said that Penix struggles with the deep throw. And you know what? This one's not completely wrong. The numbers don't lie. His deep ball completion rate sits at just 9.1%, ranking him 34th in the league. That's a painful stat, especially for a quarterback drafted for his rocket arm. But before anyone writes him off, let's slow down and look deeper, because context matters. Yes, the deep ball hasn't looked great on paper. But how many times has Atlanta actually let him throw deep? The answer is shocking: just 7 attempts of 20-plus air yards all season. That's the fewest in the entire NFL. Not one of the fewest. The fewest. Think about that. A quarterback known for his arm strength, barely ever being allowed to use it. That's like having a Ferrari and never taking it out of first gear. And when the Falcons did open up the playbook, against Washington, the result was pure fire. Penix threw past the sticks, 10-plus yards, with a 60% adjusted completion rate, 110 yards, a touchdown, and a 131.3 passer rating. No interceptions. No panic. Just precision. When you let him be himself, MP9 turns into a problem for defenses. So maybe the issue isn't that he can't throw deep. Maybe he's just not being asked to. And that's where play calling comes into question again. Because the talent is there. We saw it in college at Washington. Scouts said his arm looked like Michael Vick's, effortless flick, elite sideline accuracy, and fearless deep placement. Those tools didn't disappear overnight. They're still there, waiting to be unleashed. But in the NFL, confidence is everything. A young quarterback can't build rhythm if he's never allowed to stretch the field. You want him to grow? You've got to trust him. Let him test defenses. Let him take risks. Because if the Falcons keep running the same short game scripts, they're not just holding Penix back, they're handcuffing their future. Atlanta fans can feel it. The spark is there, just waiting to ignite. And as offensive coordinator Zach Robinson moves down to the sideline to work closer with his quarterback, we might finally start seeing what this offense was meant to be. Better communication. More confidence. More deep shots. Penix doesn't need to be saved. He just needs to be set free. Falcons fans, do you believe Michael Penix Jr. can become one of the NFL's best deep ball quarterbacks if the playbook finally opens up? Drop your thoughts in the comments and rate your confidence in him, 1 to 10, going into the next game.